Hello and welcome to CXQA Live, the home of the agent-centric contact center philosophy. Every week, we get to talk with thought leaders and influencers and practitioners in the CX space, and we talk about really the most important and most valuable asset in the contact center, and that is the agent. So if you're one of those that are listening to this content through our Recorded for Quality Assurance podcast, we want to remind you that we do this live every Tuesday at noon Eastern, and we'd love to answer your questions, to engage with what's on your mind. So jump in, register, send us questions, participate. We're glad for all of you that are here with us live today, but also encourage people that are watching the content to join us live whenever they can. So CXQA Live, we focus on the value of the agent. We believe that the agent that is equipped with the right tools, training, and connection with your company will be a revenue growth and protection center for your business. They're going to be the best diagnostic tool that your business could possibly have. They're going to ensure customers are satisfied and connected. They're going to produce more and better work, and they're going to want to stay around long-term and contribute to the well-being and success of your company. So today I'm excited that my guy, Jakob with the K, and I are going to be rapping about a cool topic. And Jakob, you've been along for this ride since we started the show. You've hosted the show many times. You're basically my partner in crime in this thing. So glad to have you with us, right?
Yeah, hey, glad to be the partner in crime. I think that's one of the most exciting titles that I've held. So I'm gonna hold that one near and dear, but I am very excited to just go back and forth with you on today's topic.
And our topic today is kind of a unique one. We try to pick topics in general that are not the kind of thing you typically see in CX B2B talk, or the kind of thing that we feel like is over discussed, or something, we really try to focus on things that we think are impactful. And one of the things that's unique about today's topic is it's kind of a connection with what we do every week. Because yes, we are, having a live discussion and we do make a podcast, but what we really hope for with this time is that it facilitates a deeper connectivity around important things that really matter in CX for those who participate, and that there is a dynamic of community that is facilitated through this time every week. And so that's our topic, is the impact that community within the greater CX industry can have on individual careers, business outcomes, really the industry as a whole. And what do we mean by community, right? I mean, it's one of the buzzwords. There's a lot of buzzwords out there in business. There's always going to be buzzwords and acronyms and all this other stuff. But at its base, community is just a group of people that come together in some way, right? A community is a group of people that are related to one another in some way. And when it comes to professional communities, often this is highly voluntary in nature. And what I have found is that in professional communities, those who invest in that community are those who benefit most from that community. And so in CX, that's not really any different. So I'm just going to throw this question at you, Jakob. In your mind, what's the value of communities of professionals that focus on CX, and how does that relate to business in CX?
So I think with CX, you have a lot of similarities to what you face with almost any organization. There's this learned mentality of this is how we're going to do things because this is the way that we've always done them. And as business processes and technology continue to evolve, it feels like that mentality no longer finds its home there. So instead of taking this, you can't teach an old dog old tricks or a new dog old tricks, right? Now we're entering this phase where our processes are evolving. Now we need to evolve our CX. And one of the best ways to do that, I genuinely and truly believe, as somebody who is a community evangelist, I also serve my community just in my personal life. I think community presents us this really unique opportunity to just help us learn from one another and potentially teach one another. So all of these executives that say, well, no, we're going to keep doing it our way because that's the right way to do it. You get the opportunity now to teach them, well, I see what you're saying, and what you're saying makes sense. But what if I gave you this other option here? And the reason that I find a lot of value in community personally, when it comes to CX, this is such a wild industry. Like getting involved in this industry and learning from it from grassroots has been a ride, but I'll get more into that later. I think what I enjoy most is I get to work with professionals that live and breathe CX every day. I think it's very key for stakeholders in your company and those that are leading CX teams and running CX initiatives to really get info from the horse's mouth, so to speak. You get to learn about all the trends that are going on. You can learn from others on what to do and what not to do. You can hear success stories as well as failure stories. Both are a great way to learn. And you also have the ability to, as you get more and more comfortable in the space, start sharing things you're learning about CX. Help educate some of these veterans in CX about some new things that are going on, or vice versa. Things that have worked for them in the past that have been really effective, they can help instill in you. So when it comes time for you to lead a CX team or to be an active part in it, you now have this opportunity because of this knowledge that you have to really make a difference in your community, in your organization, excuse me.
No, I think it's really true. I mean, for all of us that are in a learning mode, and I would argue that if you find yourself not in a learning mode, then you're missing out on growth personally, professionally, and as an organization. But for all of us that are in learning mode, yes, there are a lot of paid resources out there from which you can learn, but there are a lot of other people that are also in learning mode. And there are a lot of people out there that are able to understand, and because of experience, things that you might be trying to learn about. And I think one of the unique dynamics that makes community so important and valuable at this stage is that when workforce and labor and economic dynamics shifted during the pandemic, the world simultaneously got smaller and bigger at the same time. You know, it got smaller in the sense that for a number of months, and in some places longer, we were literally just at home and we weren't able to go about our lives. And also many of us lost people that were close to us. And so we were all going through trauma. We were all going through difficult times and trying to adjust to a new version of life that was not what we anticipated, right? And so in that sense, the world got very small for most of us. But at the same time, the world got bigger in the sense that digital tools that connect us virtually became at the forefront of the way that we connected with other humans. And so things like Slack channels turned into a place where people actually made more meaningful connection. Now some of us remember all of the forums and Reddit, and there was always this kind of online text-based community that was going on. But for many people, the pandemic became an introduction to that way of relating to other people, and the prevalence of that kind of community multiplied. In the software world, there are people that were pivoting into the software industry as a career that found communities of people that were doing that. And I know that's a part of my story. It's a part of yours too, Jacob. But what's fantastic to me about CX and the way that community really is impacting CX is that the same dynamic was going on in the greater CX industry at the same time, where people were saying, we're facing new challenges that we've never faced before. Somebody has to be able to provide some insight into this. And there was a sense, as I think there should be, that we are better together in our ability to grow and solve problems. And so there have been a number of communities, very intentional communities, that have been created to facilitate this. But there's also just a sense of community that I think personally is really unique within CX. I know being on the vendor side, there's an awful lot of skepticism that is very well earned about, why do we even host this show, and what are you really doing, and all of that. But honestly, the people with whom we've been able to make genuine connections have welcomed us into a broader CX community, where the whole goal is that we improve CX as an industry. And I also want to just add to that there are much more informal community opportunities that are not, branded and don't have something attached to it, that a lot of CX practitioners and ops and IT and the related people that are connected to the contact center world are open to participating in. And I think that spirit of collaboration and understanding and belonging that exists within the broader CX and contact center world is really unique and represents an opportunity for people who want to grow to do so together.
Yeah, and to go off of that, Rob, I want to share my story here. You mentioned that we kind of made this pivot into the software world, and we have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot to learn when it comes to what CX is. And one of the ways that I've done that is through self-education. It's literally just going through people's LinkedIn, making Google searches about what are the CX trends of 2022, 2023, what should we look out for? Looking at Gartner, looking at Forrester. And you have all the data to back that up, which is great. But it wasn't until, you mentioned Slack communities. You also mentioned forums, which made me giggle because way back when I was 12 years old and on the internet for the first time, I joined my first online forum. And man, those things are so disorganized compared to what we have today.
Right. Yep. But the number of hours spent.
Oh, hours.
Right.
Hours
I
on
think we just
end.
kind of showed our hand that we're both a little on the nerdy side, but I'm okay with that.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, I digress. Having Slack has been an absolute game changer. And you talked about the pandemic, and you're right. There's been a lot of expansion of the world and accessibility all across the globe for professionals everywhere to just network. And one of the networks that I found a lot of value in, as I'm sure you have as well, Rob, considering that some of these people we work with have actually been on the show here, a little tiny Slack community called CX Accelerator. CX Accelerator really did what it says on the tin and accelerated my learning of CX because you have everything from like people who have been in the industry for 20 plus years all the way through to these new guys that have new ideas and they're coming up with new initiatives and say, hey, you know what, this way doesn't work anymore. But beyond that, not only am I able to learn from every professional that's in that group, but it also gives me just that personal fulfillment of community, and my community is important. We're creating this whole, you would almost say, ecosystem of information and past learnings and lessons that can be taught. It really is just this incredible, I don't even know what to call it, just almost a movement to be a part of community and to embrace this aspect. And like I said, it did really accelerate the way that I learned CX. I'm not just looking at articles from 2021, like what could CX look like in 2022? No, I can talk to my friend over here who has been in the business for a while. As a matter of fact, I want to go ahead and drop some names here in the chat. So everybody here, and I'm sure we'll link this once we post it in the podcast as well. We will have it in some digestible format. Just a few of the individuals that I have had the opportunity to network with within CX Accelerator, and some I've even had the ability to meet in person, which is always a bonus. So just to give you a quick rundown on what CX Accelerator is, for those who are not in the know, it is a bunch of CX professionals just all coming together, sharing best practices, telling success stories, sharing polls, different ideas, and they really just embracing this whole aspect of community. We have members that are constantly posting podcasts, articles that they've written. Just you really get that growth mindset that you really want from any sort of team. And it's so incredible to be a part of. And Rob, I'm sure you have some experiences you could share as well with CX Accelerator.
Yeah, I do. And I just, want to underscore one thing here, and that is that, when you engage with a community, the way to do it is as a member of that community. Right. And it's not just a transactional, let's see what I can get out of this, because, there is a give and a take to it. Right. And one of the things that I've appreciated about the CX Accelerator community is that there are some people in that community that are a big deal. There are some people in that community, including some of the names that you put in the chat here, that are the founders of CX Accelerator, that could take the approach that, oh, well, I created this and now it kind of runs itself. But they are meaningfully engaged in the work of the community, which is, hey, I've got a problem, I've got a question, even I've got a career issue, I'm looking for a new role, or I'm trying to decide how to handle a problem I'm having in my current role with leadership, or with managing people, or with technology, or with whatever it is. And my experience has been that everybody there is following the example of the leaders of that community by investing whatever they know, whatever their background, whatever their experience and knowledge is, into the greater community as a whole, and the time that it takes to be present in that community. And that's what community is. That's where you're literally investing yourself without strings attached. You're not saying, hey, I'm gonna, spend a few minutes talking to you about your problem, but then I expect you to do something for me in return. And I think those dynamics create a safe space for people to show up, to be real about what they're experiencing, and also a safe space for people to invest and to know that they're not going to just end up on the business end of a sales sequence of emails, and getting spammed and hassled by vendors and people that are just looking to take. So, I think that's been my experience with CX Accelerator. It's certainly one of the clearest examples of a community that is really focused on everybody growing and becoming better together. And that the leaders, again, many of whom you've put their LinkedIn connections in the chat here, are people that are real people. They've been, in a position where they've benefited from community, and they want to be a part of facilitating and creating the same thing. So one other dynamic here that I think is really important before we move on, Jacob, is, you kind of touched on this, but there is kind of a collective wisdom in a group of people that have different experiences and different skill sets and come from diverse backgrounds within an industry. One of the things that I've found very interesting about CX is, on some level, every aspect of business involves customer experience, and that's what CX stands for, right? Customer experience. Sometimes we neglect to make sure that we're saying customer experience as well as the acronym CX, because the experience that customers have is vital to every business outcome in every business. And so people from all parts of the business world end up getting involved in CX thinking. And in many cases, people don't start in the call center and the contact center. They end up being someone who's in charge of CX because CX is so vital to the core business elements that they are responsible for. And so you have this greater business perspective that gets brought into some of these communities. That's really beautiful. But then you have the agents, and I'm talking about the people that started on the phone. They started 100% in contact center agent work. And when those two perspectives meet, there is an opportunity for massive growth on both sides. Because I think there's a challenge if you've not ever been responsible for bigger picture business outcomes and understanding how customer experience work, contact center work, operations, et cetera, fits into that larger business outcome. And a lot of companies have done a very poor job of helping the agents understand what their role is in the larger business outcome goals of the business. And that's really a shame. That's almost just treating agents like they're just a machine, and they should just be, told what they need to know to do their job. But ultimately, that's short-sighted, because the bigger why is what drives all of us to do our best work. And the more connected we feel with our company's why, the more we're going to better represent that company's why to the customer, which is the agent's whole job. So there's a disconnect there. That's a problem. And then on the other side, a great number of executives that hold responsibility for CX don't come from the contact center. They don't have a clue what the contact center agents are going through, the challenges that they face, and they have no idea why the performance isn't better this month. We said they should improve their performance. Most businesses aren't quite that far off, but functionally, right, there is a disconnect there on both sides, where coming together and really learning from each other about the perspectives that one another brings, and not just, in role. If you think about any CX problem that an organization is facing, some other organization has faced it, probably. There is somebody who has tackled this problem before. Maybe they weren't successful, but at the very minimum, some things that probably won't work. If you talk to that person, you can learn from and benefit from people's experience if there is an open forum, an open community where those things can be asked. Putting a post in a Slack group that says, hey, this is a problem that my company is trying to solve. Does anyone have any experience doing this, solving this? Having a place where that is welcome and cherished, and where that is invested into by people taking time to respond, there's enormous value there. And quite frankly, it's very, very rare to see people kind of out of the blue coming into an environment like that when it's not been created intentionally. CX Accelerator would be an example of that being very safe. Now, I do want to talk about more informal community here for a minute, because, hopefully all of us have mentors. All of us have former coworkers. We have people, if we think back on our journeys, we can think about people that we would turn to, that we would feel comfortable asking for career advice, or even advice about the particular situation that, we're in. And I would argue we should all be very intentional about facilitating that and keeping those connections up, because there is a sort of a informal community that can be created that could be very valuable for insights and support as well. You have any thoughts on that, Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you talk about informal community. I've personally never heard that term, but it's pretty accurate. So I think I freak people out, and not just because I'm 6'2" and I have a big build, but because I am a person who loves people. I am a people person, and that, if you meet me in person, you would completely get that vibe. You would completely understand what I'm all about and why I love community so much. So what's been interesting in building an informal community for what I do, I am on LinkedIn every single day. Why? I'm not looking to pitch anybody, and I'm not looking to try and sell anybody. What I'm looking for is somebody who's got a great idea, somebody who has done CX their whole life, or somebody who is like just getting into the contact center, an agent that realizes their potential and is now finding their voice. And I reach out to them. I say, hey, you have a voice that needs to be heard. I'm here to listen. I want to know what's going on. And I think when people have that feeling where they're like, wow, somebody actually wants to hear what I have to say, and I'm not just adding to the endless dribble that's existing out there today. You want to talk about community? Here we are highlighting great communities like CX Accelerator. Let's talk about those tens of, well, maybe not tens of thousands, but the large majority of these contact center agent groups that exist on sites like Facebook. It's less about let's have an opportunity to actually add value to one another and more about here's why my job sucks.
Yeah, it's a
And
support community, really. I mean, those scenarios where it's just like, there's got to be somebody who understands what I'm going through,
yeah,
and then they
and,
find each other, and then they build a community, right?
yeah, and then the community builds from there. And it's just it's such an incredible thing to be a part of. Um, one of the things I do is I'll reach out to people, tell them that they need to be heard, and you just kind of build a relationship from there. As much as I love meeting over Zoom and like sending LinkedIn DMs, another great way for me personally to build community is to just go to personal or in-person events rather. So like ICMI, CCW, Vistio will be at CCW this year. We will be attending the conference in Vegas, so really excited about that. But there's something really special about getting that in-person touch, even when you meet with somebody on LinkedIn or if you just send them a DM, having the ability to just um, see them face to face, put a name to the face and everything, and you finally get to see how tall people are when you see them at conferences. That's always something that's joked about is like, well, you look like you're 6 foot on camera, but you actually turned out to be 5'7". But I digress. Just this ability to create relationships in person with people and to really understand who these people are, getting that one-on-one opportunity and just to see their real character, they're not just hiding behind a keyboard or a screen anymore. This is them and this is who you're dealing with. And you get to meet some really genuine people that way and learn what they're all about.
And I would add there are a lot of really great, you know, I guess the way I'd put it is smaller, like regional contact center associations, um, local groups of people that get together for coffee once a month. And that's something you can facilitate and create, by the way, yourself.
Absolutely.
There are lots of ways to, build, create, facilitate, and engage in community. And I would love to see us all really recognize the opportunity that we have to invest in one another and to be invested in through these things in CX and take a deeper, I guess, view of the connectivity value that exists in a group of people that work together to help people do better working together. It makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer.
So I guess I would just say to finish our time, we are better together. And there are a lot of opportunities to invest and be invested in communities, formal, informal, larger, smaller. We hope that our time here every week is a small part of that for everyone who participates. And Doug, appreciate you introducing yourself in the chat.
There's
And
community at work right there.
that's a piece of it. That's a taste of it, right? Ultimately, guys, we have a lot of opportunities to grow, and we do it better when we do it together. And so my encouragement to you as we go about our week is to invest yourselves and make the world a little bit of a better place, starting with now. So have a great Tuesday, everybody. We'll see you this time next week.
See you guys.